evening, and thank you for tuning in to another week with Fathers Who Care. It feels just wonderful to be back. You know, I had a chance to get away last week because my young people on the council told me, get away, just get some air. They told me I was tending to stress them out a little bit. I don't know if I was stressing them out. I know they were stressing me out, but I love them. But anyway, I'm back and you're watching Fathers Who Care. And as you know, Fathers Who Care is a not-for-profit social service agency founded many years ago on the west side of Chicago. And our primary mission has been to empower our young people to dispel the negative myths associated with men to fathers and their relationships with their children. Listen, it's been one of those weeks. We got so much going on, and I'm going to talk to you about some other things later on. But I want you to know that every week for the next 13 weeks, Fathers Who Care will be on hot spots across the west side of Chicago. Tonight we'll be on Madison and Kildare, and we'll be doing tomorrow night and tonight we'll be doing a Light in the Night event. What we're talking about is bringing peace into the hood. We're telling folks in the neighborhood to put down the guns for some real summer fun. So we're really doing a on-the-ground campaign, President.
Thank you.
So we're doing an on-the-ground campaign to bless these folks in the neighborhood, to bring out refreshments, case management, intervention support, and refreshments and entertainment. But before I get into that, I want to take this time just to introduce to some and present to others none other than our president. Our president of course, the County Board of Commissioners, none other than you see her, the Honorable Toni Preckwinckle. And Toni Preckwinckle, as some of you may know, of course, she was talking about it just a little while ago, had done 19 years as an alderman. But let me just get away from that and talk about the good stuff. The good stuff is that she's a mother. She's a grandmother and has been dedicated to the community as a community leader and stakeholder for over 2 decades. Since taking office in December of 2010, of course, our president has rebuilt the credibility of the county government by solving more than $1.8 billion in budget deficit and cutting $657 million in expenditures. Of course, our president is also the president of the Forest Preserve. And we're going to talk about some of the jewels that you are missing in the Forest Preserve. Sometimes you be wondering, what can you do with the family to have some real family fun? I mean, to get away from the city life and get into the wilderness, the woodery, and just have some real fun. I'm telling you, you need to experience some of our Forest Preserves. They're literally a jewel. But with this time, I'd like to just digress and just ask a few questions of our president. And we want you all to understand that this evening, we would not be entertaining calls because we want to get some questions out the way. And we really have some serious questions on our agenda that we would love to talk about, specifically about what's going on in the county. So with that being said, again, thank you so much, Honorable President, Madam President Preckwinckle, for coming out to be with us this evening and agreeing to sharing some of the concerns we have about what we can do to empower each other to save some of our lives, and what can community stakeholders do to engage each other, to enlighten each other, and to empower. This show tonight is about what we can do, not what we can do separate. We're talking about what we can do together. So if you don't mind, we would like to use this show for the purpose of unifying and use this show for the purpose of empowering each other, if that's okay.
Sure.
So with that being said, we would like to take the liberty now to talk to you. We want you to take off the president cap, if you can. Take off the president cap, please. And we want to talk to Toni. Is Toni at home? Is Toni home?
First of all, I want to thank you, Reverend Jones, for inviting me.
Our pleasure.
Inviting me today. You know, I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I came to Chicago when I was 18 years old to go to college, and I've been here ever since, so that's more than 50 years at this point. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I love Chicago. It's a beautiful city, and it has such interesting and diverse neighborhoods. I think it's a fascinating place.
It is.
And I'm grateful that both of my children are here, and my 3 grandchildren are here as well. So.
Absolutely. So now, if we said to you, we want to ask this question, and we knew that we know you're passionate about being a mother and a grandmother. Most of us are. Mm-hmm. But if we asked you, who is Toni Preckwinckle, and what is her purpose for existing, what would you tell us?
Well, first of all, as you said, I'm a mother and a grandmother, and both those things have brought me great joy in my life. I have spent my working life, first as a teacher, and then working for a variety of not-for-profits and government, and then being elected alderman my third try in 1991. So since 1991, I've been a local elected official, and I was very grateful for the chance that I had to represent the people of the Fourth Ward for almost 20 years and to work on rebuilding the neighborhoods of the Fourth Ward, and grateful for the opportunity since 2010 to serve as president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners. And the principal things for our viewers that the county does, we run a healthcare system, and we're responsible for the criminal justice system in Cook County. And actually, between those two things, we spend 87% of our money. Between those two things, we spend 87% of our money. So 46 cents out of every dollar goes to the provision of health care, and 41 cents out of every dollar goes toward our criminal justice system, so the courts and the jails. And I think when people think of Cook County government, the role that we play in those two areas may not be readily apparent to people. So I always try to remind people that that's where their money goes. Everything else that the county does, and we do a lot of other things, but everything else is about 13% of our budget. We run Stroger Hospital on the near west side, Provident Hospital on the mid-south side, the Cermak Hospital in the jail. We've got 16 clinics around the county, and we run a Medicaid managed care program called County Care, which many of you have heard of, and that provides an opportunity for people who have modest incomes to get health insurance and to be insured and get medical care. We also run the courts and the jails, and in my view, it's very important that people believe that we have a fair and just criminal justice system, and that's what we've been trying to work towards in the 7 years that I've been in this office.
Well, I knew I couldn't keep you from possibly talking about your passion, and your passion is definitely in the work that you do, but I'm going to bring you back, okay? I'm going to bring you back, and I'm going to ask again this question. We know that you have been in public service. You're a public servant. We know that. We know you love it, and we know that you are a mother, and we know that you are a grandmother. But when our Toni Preckwinckle wants to relax and just be normal, what do you do?
Well, first of all, I love reading. I'm a teacher by profession, so I'm always encouraging people to read.
Teacher.
A history teacher. So I'm always encouraging people to read. I do a lot of that myself. Because I'm the history teacher, I love antiques, old stuff, and so I try to go to antique shows. And just to treat myself, I like to go to plays and musicals.
There we go. I knew it was there. But have you felt it? You felt that passion, and that's what we know about you. We know that you are really passionate about the work you're doing. Now, we know this work can have its ups and its downs. That's what it does. That's what it is. Some good days, some bad days, but through it all, we have to do what we have to do to empower the people. And we have to do to make a sound judgment and to keep the budget balanced, all right? So that we can do what we can to bring resources back into the neighborhood. Would you agree?
Yes, I mean, the main obligation of an executive is to prepare a budget and then try to get that budget passed. And one of the challenges we've had at the state level for the last 2.5 years is that didn't seem to be the governor's priority to present a budget and then get it passed. And we've done that for the 7 years that I've been the county executive, and we've presented balanced budgets every year. And that has required more recently that we raise revenue to meet our obligations and expenses, and that's always difficult. But you have to understand that it takes courage to tell people difficult things, which is that, you know, there is no such thing as a free lunch. If you want good service in government, you have to pay for it. And that's what I try to remind people all the time.
So I want you to talk to us tonight about different things that we can do as citizens of the community and stakeholders of the community. I'm really serious about this pooling resources mentality, because regardless of what the state may do or don't do, or whoever may do, the county, the city, or whomever, I really believe that there's power in the people. And if the people sometimes, you never know when you may be a shortfall, and you don't know what you may have to do. But I believe if we all continue to work together, love each other, support each other, I believe we can weather storms. I understand being the executor as you are, and you have to make the decision on the county level. You have to do certain things, and you have to propose certain amendments or budgets or proposals or whatever the thing is that you all do in in that chamber to do what you have to do. I know you're doing it with the best intentions to balance the budget and to bring additional resources to the community so that the community can have opportunities. Would you agree?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that we've tried to do, speaking of community opportunities, and the time that I've been the county executive, is to provide resources to community organizations around violence prevention, anti-recidivism, that is to try to keep people who've been in the criminal justice system from returning, and restorative justice initiatives. We've always run the courts and the jails, but under my tenure as president, we've tried to support community organizations that are engaged in those kind of activities, violence prevention, anti-recidivism, and restorative justice, because we think it's really important to support community initiatives that try to make the neighborhoods better.
So am I hearing you correctly? I just want clarity here. You just spoke on violence prevention initiatives, recidivism, and anti-recidivism, and restorative justice initiatives, right?
Right.
So you're saying that there's an opportunities provided, though opportunities have been provided for folks to apply for possibly funding and support via resources to bring these resources to the neighborhood to right some wrongs and to empower those who need to be empowered. Is that fair?
Right. We have supported community organizations across the county that are engaged in that kind of work.
Okay. Oh, I like that. So that's some of the initiatives going on through the county, fair?
Right.
Okay, so let's go with this one. Now, we that was a question that my young people wanted me to ask you.
Sure.
And I'm going to do it because if I want, they're going to get me. They said, what are the duties of the president? What are the duties of the president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners? They want to know.
Sure. Well, the president of the Board of Commissioners is the county executive. So, like executives at all levels in our democracy, you're responsible for preparing a budget and getting it passed. That's your primary obligation and responsibility. And since I've been president of the county board, I've of course done that, but I've also tried to focus on the sustainability of our healthcare system, what we need to do both locally and at the state level and nationally to support our healthcare system, and also what we can do to make our criminal justice system more fair. And one of the things we've focused on is trying to keep people accused of nonviolent crimes out of the jail as they awaited the disposition of their cases. So we've worked on the bond court, which is the port of entry into our criminal justice system, to be sure that more people who are accused, again, of nonviolent crimes get to be in the community as they wait the disposition of their cases. Because I think if you talk to most people on the street, they would say, who's in the jail? People who've been convicted of crimes. But local jails are not places, by and large, for people who've been convicted of crimes. Local jails are places of detention for people who are waiting their trials. And in our jail, when I came into office in 2010, there were 10,000 people on average on a daily basis. And of those people, only 7% were serving a sentence. That means 93% were awaiting trial. And of those awaiting trial, about 70% were awaiting trial for nonviolent crimes. So shoplifting, drug possession, not paying their child support. Only 30% of the people awaiting trial were awaiting trial for murder and rape and robbery, the things that keep us up at night. So we have focused on trying to be sure that people who are accused of nonviolent crimes await the disposition of their cases in the community. Now that's good for them. They can go to work and support their families. They can go to school. And it's good for the county because it costs $162 a day to keep somebody in jail.
$162.
$162 a day. And why should we keep somebody in jail?
In the county, right?
Yeah, in the county jail. Why should we keep somebody in jail who's accused of stealing a few bars of soap from Walgreens? I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Well, let me ask you this, Madam President. I feel your passion, so I'm going to just run on down the line. Why are you so passionate in empowering our community? Why are you so passionate in being the executive of the county? Why are you so passionate in the work that you're doing? The passion is obviously felt. We can feel it right as you speak. But why are you so?
Well, you know, I'm a teacher by profession.
Right.
And I spent a lot of time with young people. And
that shows.
And, you know, I really enjoy being a teacher. And I want to be sure that the future in this country is better than our past. And if that's going to be the case, that means those of us who are adults are going to have to work hard to make our country and our county a better place. And the responsibilities of the county, providing health care for people who don't have their own insurance, trying to be sure that our criminal justice system is fair, Those are important things for the future of our county, and for people's sense that government can be effective and honest and be helpful to them. So those are things that I care about, and they're things that fortunately every day I get to work on as the county executive.
Well, let me ask this question, because I was always curious, you know, read a little bit here and I read a little bit there about the budget. What is our county budget?
It's $4.2 billion. $4.2 billion.
Okay.
And again, 87% of it goes in two buckets, either public health or public safety.
Right. 46% in health and 41%
In public safety.
Public safety.
Yeah.
Okay. and let me ask this. I was reading about some information about you as one of the authors or the creators of the first performance management initiative. And I was curious to know, and I know that that initiative helped to kind of probably reduce the deficit and other expenditures and things of that nature, but I was really trying to wrap my mind around the particulars of. Can you share that with me?
Sure. After our first budget cycle, which was pretty difficult, we said we need a better handle on what we're actually doing in the county. So we went to every separately elected official, we went to all of our bureau chiefs and department heads, and we said, look, we want you to think about what you're doing, how we can do it better, and how we're going to measure our progress. Okay, so what are we doing now?
Okay.
What do we need to do more of or differently? And then how are we going to measure our progress?
So the expected outcomes or evaluation.
Right.
Okay.
So performance
Okay.
management is really basically that. You look at what you're doing, you try to figure out, is this really what you want to do? Are there things you could do better or differently? And then how are we going to measure our progress? What are going to be, the term is metrics. How are we going to measure
Okay,
what
the-
we're doing?
Okay. the
So
match.
that's performance management. You get everybody together, you try to figure out what we're doing now, what our goals should be, how we should do things differently or better, and then how are we going to measure our progress. And so we've instituted that across the county so that people are aware of the direction in which we need to be going and how we're going to evaluate our progress toward those goals.
I would be remiss if I didn't come back again with my young people. I love my young people. I really do. I have a passion for it. I'm called to do this work. Trust me. It's not a job. It's my ministry. I love the work
Right.
with my young people. They would like to know, why should one want to be a county commissioner? They wanted to know, why should one want to be a county commissioner?
Okay, so there's 17 county commissioners. We have 5.2 roughly million people, 17 commissioners. Each of them represents a geographic district. And there are elections every 4 years for county commissioners. The next election is coming up in 2018. So there'll be primaries, Republican and Democratic primaries in March, and then a general election in November. So you get to be a county commissioner basically by running for the job, getting the nomination of your party first in the March elections, and then winning a general election in November.
Okay, so here's a question that I thought would be important. What are we doing in the county in relationship to economic development?
Well, you know, I was in the 1980s when Harold Washington was mayor. I worked for 3 years in the city of Chicago's Department of Economic Development. And, you know, I'm a history teacher by profession, so this wasn't something I knew a lot about. But I got beat into my head the importance of government focusing on trying to be helpful to businesses and encouraging business growth. So one of the things we've done, first of all, when I came into office, I said, I want to talk to the bureau chief for economic development so I can hear about what we're doing in the county. And I discovered that there was no Bureau of Economic Development. There were separate departments on community development, capital planning, building and zoning. So I put them in one department, one bureau, so that they could all work together because all these things are related. And it made more sense to try to have a comprehensive, coherent economic development strategy for the county than to have a bunch of little units running around doing their own thing in silos. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing was, my chief of staff at the time, Kurt Summers, who's now treasurer of the city of Chicago, said we should have a council of economic advisors, just as the president does. The president of the United States has a council of economic advisors. We should have one. So we recruited a couple dozen business leaders, corporate leaders from across the county. And the co-chairs initially were John Rogers, an African-American who runs his own mutual fund called Ariel Investments, Ariel Capital. And then William Osborne, Bill Osborne, who was the retired chief executive officer of Northern Trust, which is one of our big banks. And so the two of them were co-chairs. In April of 2013, they put out a report and said, among other things, you, Cook County, ought to take the leadership in trying to improve the vitality, the vibrancy of northeastern Illinois as a region. So we brought together the county executives, their business leaders, and their economic development professionals in December of 2013 and said, can we work together? And what do we want to work on to try to improve economic development in northeastern Illinois? And that was not just Cook County, but the city of Chicago, represented by World Business Chicago, Kane, Kendall, McHenry, Lake, Will, and DuPage. So it's the 7-county northeastern Illinois region. And we've been working on rationalizing, streamlining truck permitting, because we're the capital of the Midwest and a big intermodal center, that is truck-to-train traffic and train-to-truck traffic. Trying to help small and medium-sized businesses export, increase their capacity to export, because that increases their growth trajectory as a firm. And then finally, working with the metal fabrication sector, because this is a part of our economy that's strong in all seven counties. So those are the 3 things we started with, and now we're trying to work on foreign direct investment, trying to get companies that are headquartered outside the United States to invest more in our region. So those are the things we're working on together as a region, the Chicago Regional Growth Initiative, CRGI.
Okay, so that's basically the regional kind of economic development.
Well, there's one more thing we're doing actually in economic development, and that's a land bank. So we have a Cook County Land Bank. So we have properties that have been sold to us by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Those are government entities that had a lot of properties when the market collapsed in 2008. The land bank has been buying properties in the tax sale, so properties that are basically abandoned, either vacant properties or vacant buildings, and trying to find buyers for them and bring them back into the economy, put them back on the property tax rolls. So we've done a lot of different things in terms of economic development, creating a bureau, getting an advisory business group, our Council of Economic Advisors, creating a land bank, all of which were directed toward trying to be sure that we work together in every way we possibly can to lift up our region, which is the economic engine of the entire state of Illinois.
Listen, I want to encourage those who are watching. You see, it's been a stimulating conversation, but I want to encourage those who are watching to get in touch with Fathers Who Care and find out more about what we're doing. Of course, you can log on to fatherswhocare.org, or you can call us at 773-287-5821. Again, 773-287-5821. Log on to Fathers Who Care, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, all of that stuff these young folks got me all hooked up on. I love these young people. They got me on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, you name it, I'm learning more about it. And I thank those young folks for the work that they're doing. But I want to encourage those of you who are watching tonight to understand that this evening and tomorrow we'll be doing an event, a Safe Night event on Madison and Kildare. Come on out for some summer fun. Come on out with your families. Come on out. We're going to talk about what we can do collectively as a community to empower each other. And of course, you're watching our guest this evening. Our guest is none other than our president, Madam Toni Preckwinckle, president of the County Board of Commissioners for Cook County. So here, we're going to get back into some questions. You know, I've been actually talking to my young folks and others, particularly a group that we have called Mothers Who Care. And we've been wanting to collaborate, this Mothers Who Care group and Fathers Who Care group, into trying to empower each other, complement each other, but also with our center interest on parenting and empowering our young folks. And so there's always been a concern, what can we do locally that we can take our children to and involve our children in some of the experiences, you know, some, like Camp Algonquin. You know, tell us about the Forest Preserve. I mean, I've heard and I've read and of course I've experienced some of it, but you're the president of the Forest Preserve. Is that correct?
Right. The president of the county board and the county commissioners are also the president of the Forest Preserve District and the Forest Preserve Commissioners. And we have about 70,000 acres. 11% of our land is in forest preserves, and it's kind of an emerald ring around the city. You can go hiking, you can go to our nature centers, you can go camping, you can go tent camping,
Absolutely.
You can go camping in cabins. We have 5 campgrounds around the county. You can go biking, mountain biking. You can go horseback riding in the forest preserves. You can rent canoes and kayaks down at Maple Lake, where I've taken my grandchildren. You know, there are lots of wonderful things you can do in our forest preserves. Many people know about them because they go there for family picnics
Absolutely.
Or reunions. But there are lots of activities, as I said, walking, biking, horseback riding, skiing in the winter, visiting the nature centers. We have 5 nature centers. So these are wonderful activities, almost all of which are entirely free in our forest preserves.
And why should they take advantage of
They're
them?
great family recreation.
Absolutely.
And we, the taxpayers of Cook County, own the forest preserves. So they're our wonderful asset and resource. And so I encourage families in particular to come out to the forest preserves and use them.
So let me go back. I want now. What is? Tell me more about the Conservation Corps.
Well, the Conservation Corps is a program of the Forest Preserve District and allows young people basically to be stewards in the forest preserve, to learn about conservation, to learn about invasive species, and to help us get rid of those invasive species, to maintain the preserves in good condition. And it's an opportunity for them to learn about the outdoors as well and to enjoy the outdoors. And it's a program sponsored by Friends of the Forest Preserve, which is a not-for-profit organization, the Forest Preserve itself. And this summer we had a partnership with the Housing Authority of Cook County, and many of the young people who are residents of the Housing Authority properties participated in the Conservation Corps, and that was great.
Okay. Now, we were talking before, and I was specifically inquiring about things for our young folks, and I'm really committed to trying to empower these young folks in whatever I can do. And some of the young folks just don't know because they don't have the support, the intervention, the resources, the wherewithal, or people who really care and have patience for them. Tell us more about the Juvenile Justice Initiative that's going on.
Well, one of the things we've made a priority in my administration is criminal justice reform. So we've been working in Springfield, and I'll tell you, we haven't had great luck in our efforts to make changes in the rules and regulations for adults, but we've had more luck in trying to change what happens to juveniles in our criminal justice system. So the first thing we did was say, let's try to keep people who are 17 years old and younger in the juvenile justice system and reduce the number of crimes that will put them in the adult system. Because the juvenile system is focused on rehabilitation and the adult system is focused on punishment. So we all know that teenagers are not adults, and we know that that their brains aren't fully formed actually until they're in their 20s. So we're trying to pursue a number of initiatives that make it more likely that young people who find themselves in the criminal justice system get the best possible treatment and, if possible, are diverted out of our juvenile temporary detention center into community programs rather than ending up in the youth jail.
Listen, the time on the wall is moving so fast, Madam President. But right now, I just want to encourage those who are watching, if you need volunteer opportunities or if you have some young people you would like for them to join the West Garfield Park Youth Council, give us a call at 773-287-5821. Again, the West Garfield Park Youth Council, Fathers Who Care, we're working together with these young people to make sure that these young folks are actively involved, along with the West Garfield Park and Westside Community Stakeholders, which is a great group of community partners working together to create a safe, healthy, and drug-free community. In closing, Madam President, we'd like to ask you this question in closing. If you could challenge or encourage the residents of the county to work together, what would you tell us to do? And as you say that, we have to close out shortly.
You know, I'm a history teacher, and I always said to my students, democracy is at the same time the best and the most fragile form of government on earth, the best and the most fragile, because it depends on an active, engaged citizenry. So I would encourage people in their communities to help create programs and activities that engage our young people. You know, my grandmother always said, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So if we can keep our young people involved in productive activities, after school, sports activities, chess programs, athletic teams, music, band, art, whatever kinds of things you can do to help young people in your community engage in productive activity, it will be a boon to them and to the communities that you live in.
You've heard it here with our president, Madam President Toni Preckwinckle, County Board. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, young people. Thank you, all of you, for the work that you did. God bless you. We'll see you next week. Same time, same station. Keep the faith. God loves you, and so do I. And ain't nothing you can do about it. Log on to Fathers Who Care, and we'll see you tomorrow and this evening out on Madison and Kildare. God bless you. Good night, and keep the faith until we see you again.
Thank you, Rick.